Hey there, and welcome back. It's me again. So it's time for my yearly Q&A that I don't do every year. I really do them less than a year. Maybe like once every 4 years is a better rate, but I don't know, a quad. So there's a lot of questions that came in. I made a post on my community section on my channel, and there was a lot of comments that came in. I think it was around like 480 or so that I noticed. I counted them one by one. YouTube definitely doesn't just give a number of how many there is, even though they do. I still counted them just to be sure YouTube wasn't lying to me, because you can never be too sure. And if you watch this and think these questions just sucked, well then let me know. And then maybe leave your own question. I can do another one in like a couple months time. And while you're here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos and like this video even though you haven't watched it yet. But for now, hopefully you guys... I can't believe that I'm sitting here recording this again. This is about to be my second time going through over 100 questions, because the first time while I was editing it, I just realized that I answered like the same thing so many different times. And I also just didn't like the answers to some of the questions. I felt like I might have misunderstood them at first a little bit. Hopefully this one won't take 2 hours like the last one, but if it does... Oh. Okay, well, number 3, here we go. Third try is the charm. Okay, fourth try, but that's okay. I have fixed all my issues. Question 1. And no, I will not be listing off the number of the question for each question I do, although it would be convenient, maybe just for time stamping something, I don't know. Starting off with a real problematic one. Are you gonna play a Souls game, maybe Elden Ring possibly? I would like to see you try to get through it. I've played a little bit of Dark Souls 3 over my second channel, but I haven't finished it. I don't know if I should just hop straight into Elden Ring and do Elden Ring, or if I should actually still sit down and play Dark Souls 3, but that's something that I'll decide probably over there. So if you want to be a part of that conversation, go over. And no, I didn't put this one first just to talk about my second channel at the beginning of the video. What did you want to be when you were a kid? Probably when I was a bit younger, I wanted to be a firefighter because I felt like they were just some of the coolest people ever. I feel like when I was growing up, firefighters were put in like a really good light. Not saying that they're in like a bad light. It takes a certain type of person to want to run into a burning building just to save someone else. And then probably at some other point, someone that drove like big construction vehicles, because I love Tonkas. I had so many different Tonka toys and Tonka books. And then later on in life, probably something with computers. I don't think YouTube was like really an option when I was thinking about that, because I was probably freshman year of high school. I just knew I wanted to do something involving computers. I never expected YouTube. That was a shocker. As the second channel changed the way, question 3 by the way, as the second channel changed the way you look at the creation process on the main channel at all? Okay, once again, I did not put it this early just to put yes. I think doing the second channel and having that be there gave me kind of more of an understanding what's like the base amount of editing that I'm willing to do, like what I needed it at in order to feel satisfied with the video. Asking if you plan on streaming more, because I love tuning into your streams. That is something I want to be doing more this year. I don't know how frequent, probably not all too frequent, maybe at least starting once a week, but it would be ideal for 2 times a week, or maybe even a couple times, but some of them are more like chilled back late at night things. I don't even know when would be a good time to stream. It would probably be later at night, just because I'm sort of up chilling, not doing much. But yes, I do want to start streaming more this year. Would you consider doing different style videos? That's question 4. Not just vlogs, because that takes effort, I know, but say show and tell vids of random stuff. If I do videos like that, sort of like more low key, like random vlogs or something, like you're saying, a show and tell of something I have, or art videos, maybe I'll do like, I'll film all the paintings I've done, or just painting in general, or sewing in general. But that would probably be second channel content over on more Kryoz. I do want to try to start doing a wider variety of video types. Do you miss playing with your old friends like Fitz, Swagger, and etc.? Etc. was the realest homie I think I've ever met. Fitz and Swagger are pretty cool too, and I definitely miss playing with them. But you know, life sort of goes at different paces for everybody. Things change, and I'm sure there'll be times when we're playing again together. Are you gonna play any more Tricky Towers? Let me tell you what. I wish. But everyone that I've played Tricky Towers with so far is very against playing it with me again. Yeah, you kind of just like completely dump on people once and they're like afraid that you're just going to do it again. Not saying that I wouldn't, I probably would, but it's hard to convince people at that point. How do you juice your brain to get such vivid dreams? For those who not too sure what he's talking about, I've told a couple of dream stories over, once again, you know where it's at. And I've sort of just made it a slight habit whenever I do commentary type videos to go in depth on some of the more elaborate dreams that I can remember. As far as how do I juice it, I have no idea. I sort of sometimes just fall asleep watching, I think, specific types of videos, and I sort of dream. Like my brain stays awake long enough that it's running through its ideas and creative process or something. Are you gonna keep doing Bob Ross videos? That might be something I could try. I definitely have a bigger area behind me now, so I think I could do it maybe a little bit better, not so like cramped, and hopefully avoid the copyright strike. Got a bit of a lengthy one here. If your mind, memory, and soul is put into a new body or clone because your old body is dying or something is wrong with it, and old you has to die in 30 minutes, part of whatever this hypothetical is, would you want to talk to your old self, then have him killed? Would you want to do it yourself, but tape his mouth so you don't hear him talk you out of it? Or would you rather have the new, like for this one, I feel like if I'm taking my mind, memory, and soul, what's left in the other one anyways? It's like, how would I talk to them? So like, I don't know, that part confuses me, but I probably just, if he's gonna die regardless, I probably wouldn't want to kill him, but I wouldn't want a clean wipe either. But if they have to die, they have to die. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen if they don't die. I wouldn't want to do the killing. That would give me some crazy trauma that I don't even know if like the top therapist in the world could help navigate you through. Just be like, hey, I killed myself. I don't know how they would look at you. Do you have any other hobbies that you don't talk about? Pretty much just painting and sewing, and then I guess you could consider YouTube a slight hobby, but there's so many different things that are involved with YouTube. It's like tough. I don't know. It's more like a whole job. I mean, drawing as well, if that counts. Eating, masturbating. Would do another self-portrait for 2023. I think there could be a chance of it. I haven't drawn many faces. I guess I have drawn some. Not like replicating faces, but you know, there might be a chance of it, but once again, it's going to be over on the more Kryoz channel, because that's sort of where I want it to be, like a slight hub for more art things. It won't be exclusively art thing, and then maybe do like highlights or something over here. Is it true you're a fellow Missourian? If so, how the hell did you escape? You got to help me. I just moved, man. I knew someone in California. They wanted a roommate, and I moved in. So you're trapped in a room with 3 doors. Each door has something different behind it. An exit, more water, and a room full of rats. Rats made me crazy. Crazy? I was crazy once. They locked me in a room, a rubber room, and across the room you're on top of a table. You notice that the room has been flooded with 2 feet of water in it, and in it are 2 3/4 alligators. They got hungry. They're still hungry. Only eating 1/4 of them. They're for sure, yeah, they want me. On the table with you is a metal spork, 2 pounds of scrap copper wire, and a magic blue fish. How are you getting out of there? I would take the metal spork and some of the copper wire, and I would put the magic blue fish on the fork. Wait, is it fork or spork? Spork, still. It has a fork portion. I would tie it up on there, and then I have a magic blue fish wand. And with that, I'll say, Freeze-a-kiss the water kiss, and hope that that does something. Poof. Assuming it does do something, all of a sudden the water turns to ice, and I walk up to door 1, I knock on it. Doesn't sound like there's water behind it. So I open it, and it was the room full of rats. And rats make me crazy. And let me tell you, I was crazy once, and they locked me in a room. It was a rubber room, and the rubber room had rats in it. But rats make me crazy. Crazy. I was crazy once. They locked me in a room. It was like this big rubber room, and it was filled with rats, and rats make me crazy. Crazy? I was crazy once. They locked me in a room, a rubber room, and it had rats in it, and rats make me crazy. I'm trying to learn editing, so why not a question about it? How'd you get into video editing? What does your editing work process go for a video? Well, for me personally, I get my footage, usually probably take like an hour of it, and then I'll go through, chop it up, get all the pacing of it fitted properly so it flows regardless of any additional editing. Then I'll go through, do like pans and zooms and crops and all those things. So it's like, so instead of just sitting still, it'll like zoom in and zoom out and move around and sort of do that throughout the whole video to keep the flow and like enhance it in places that it needs enhancing. And during all of these pass-throughs, I'll usually like refine the cut more if I want clips out, or if I want to like extend certain parts, and I'll change the audio up a bit just to get everything like syncing, and when it goes to a new clip, it's not like a weird cut that you can sort of notice, even though like most people can't. And then I'll go back, probably do music, because with music I can sort of like find like the natural times to cut out the music, and in those points then I might do some sort of extra editing to emphasize that spot even more, because like when the music cuts out, that makes it funnier. I mean, that's a very simple version of it, but pretty much that. Do you smoke weed regularly? And if so, how's your relationship with it? Not really. When I was in Washington, I definitely did. It was more frequent, but ever since moving back, not too much, not really at all. Like every once in a while I will, but it's like a couple hits and I'm just like, I'm done on that. So I guess my relationship with it is distant, but good. What have you been doing outside of YouTube? Do you have any specific plans for your channel in the future? And are there any games in 2023 you're excited for? Well, outside of YouTube, painting and sewing, pretty much it. Not much else. Specific plans for the channel in the future would just be kind of trying to get some consistency and views across the board back and grow on the second channel, I guess. And games for 2023 I'm excited for would probably only really be party animals. Although I did come across, I think it's called like Void Train or Void Line. That also, it kind of looks like Raft in space. It looks pretty cool. What kind of car do you drive and what drives you to keep pushing yourself to make content? I don't drive, but the first car I did drive was an Oldsmobile Cutlass. And what drives me to keep pushing making content? Well, it's my job, and if I don't do it, then I don't earn money. But it's also fun. I don't know. There's a lot of different creative parts in it, and I like doing things that make me feel creative. So there's so many different facets for some sort of creative injection. So I think that's what kind of pushes me to keep doing it. Is it's just, I don't know, it's kind of fun. Do you ever feel like your friendships with the people you record with are strained because of the implied business aspects of them? How do you deal with issues in that regard, if any? I think it can. I think it can like stress friendships, but I think as long as like, I mean, I think a big part of it is like, okay, are they your friends or are they people that you only record with? And a lot of the times it's more so that you're just hanging out with your friends than it's like you're getting in a business meeting ready to get some work done. I mean, in some ways it probably could, but for the most part, and at least for the groups that I've been in, not really. Not to say that there hasn't been any, but I would say for me personally, not much, but nothing that would like break apart a friendship. You are the little few or just the single gaming YouTuber that I've seen start to paint and sew in their free time. How does that make you feel, or you just don't care? And another question, don't bother to answer if you don't want. Oh, perfect. I don't really care all too much, but I also don't know why I would care. I mean, I've noticed a lot of gaming creators more so go like sort of the making music route, it seems like, or kind of just YouTubers in general at that point, because there's been a lot of YouTubers that started making music. So yeah, I mean, I don't really care. I do wish that art in general was like a little bit more received in a way. Like I feel like you can do music and a lot more people would be interested in it. It does feel like art isn't quite at like, it doesn't feel quite as open to easily get, I guess. But I think it's just more abstract to think about, but I guess it also depends on what you paint. I don't know. And then yeah, I'm down for a lot of collabs with other creators. It just sort of depends on like us aligning, us knowing each other probably roughly, because most of the time larger creators don't just want to bring on someone they've never met before or have like no mutual friends with into a video and just like try it out. How's your mental health been? Is there anything you feel like you need to get off your chest? Yeah, this damn sports bra. I don't know why I put it on, but I think my mental health has been fine. I think it used to be I don't want to say like a lot worse, but it's definitely worse, mostly just because I didn't know how to handle it as well at the time. While now I think I just have a better understanding of it and it's a little bit easier to see certain patterns or catch those patterns before they go too far. How long does it take to make the custom pants, the ones you give me no money, for example? Well, that's a good example because that's, I mean, I don't know what I was about to say, but I think those took around probably like 15 to 20 hours. A lot of the time was just cutting out the shapes of the flowers and getting like all the flowers done, because initially I cut out a whole flower, then I was like, I don't like how that looks. So then I went to Photoshop and like made flowers but with singular petals, and so then I printed those out, got a template for them, then mass cut them out of fabric, and that was definitely the longest part because I want to say like 10 flowers total. I had minimum 5 petals per, so it was quite a bit of petals that I had to cut out, because the leg flare is usually pretty simple to do. It takes a little bit of thinking and to be like, wait, how do I put this back together so it doesn't look like shit? But I got there. Is there any show, movie, etc. you can just watch and repeat? I'm not much of a person to sit there and like repeat the same thing over and over, maybe video wise, since I've uploaded like 2,000 videos, but not because the shows are bad or I haven't watched any great shows. It's just because if I'm going to sit down and watch something, I sort of want to watch something new, I guess. If you have a bag of frozen chicken tenders, how many are you heating up to eat? Bare minimum 4, max Probably 7. Which one of your friends that you game with would you consider the weirdest? Probably have to say Super McNasty. I feel like those are 2 pretty safe ones. They're not necessarily like weird. They're a little bit insane. Am I dumb, or did you really vape through your ear in that one time in that one Q&A? You're just dumb. What's the type of art you haven't done before but would love to try? Also, do you read often? No, not really. I do want to start reading more, but it's not on the top of my list. I feel like I read a whole bunch when I was younger. And then as I grew up, I was just kind of like, a type of art before that I haven't. I mean, it would be interesting to try oil paints, but I don't know. Besides that, that's kind of all I could think of is just trying out oil paints, but I don't know if that's the type of art you really mean. Is your first name actually Jonathan, or did someone make that up? Someone made that up. My name's just John. Why not play with the other YouTuber more, other than Smitty? Well, you said YouTuber. So I can only assume you only mean Smitty. A lot of games are just meant for like 4 people and smaller groups anymore. I'm kind of like the 5th or the 6th guy chilling on the sideline. I've been trying to reach out and get groups going together a little bit more, but it's a slow process. And Smitty's just always down to play with me. So I don't know. It's a win. I'm sure I could probably ask more people to do the same, but it's like at this point I have like a bond with Smitty, you know? What artist, dead or alive, would you want to meet? I feel like there's a couple that I could pick, but I don't know if it's necessarily wanting to meet, but almost more so wanting to watch them work and like do their thing. And I think those would probably have to be, I'll go with 3, just so there's a wider variety. I think Kandinsky would be cool. Basquiat, I feel like is almost like a must. And then Hieronymus Bosch. I feel like those would be a good 3, but also Francis Bacon would be kind of cool. How long do you think it'll take to finish your hardcore Minecraft series? Probably forever, unfortunately. I suck at Minecraft. I don't know. I just suck at it. Of the art, sewing, and all the stuff you've been doing with all your interests and hobbies, is it difficult to balance YouTube content with them? As a follow-up, do you make commissioned items, and what's your favorite type you sold or given away? I don't make commissioned items, except most likely for people I know. It has been hard to balance it. There's been just like times where I don't want to do something on my computer, so I'm like, oh, I should go paint or sew, because I sort of want to do one of those right now, but then it's like I get in my head, I'm just like, but one's a job, one's a hobby. You got to pick the one that's gonna like keep things going and like will get you through the next day type of thing. So there's just every once in a while this odd balancing that I have to worry about, but it's a slow process to sort of adapt to it and get used to that. What was the biggest risk you've taken that you love the outcome to? I mean, probably just sticking with like graphic design and making videos for YouTubers and trying it myself all those years ago, and just constantly starting channels and closing channels down when I wanted to do something different, and just kept on doing this thing that at the time had no promise of an actual successful future. I just thought it would be fun and it would get my parents off my back about going to college because I could show them that I'm actually doing something. Most partner contracts were pretty shit as far as what you actually earned. Sort of around when I got to that point, there was better contracts out and stuff. So at that point, it was like, look at this, I'm making money doing this. Come on, give me my credit. Why do they call it an oven when you oven the cold food out of heat? Why do they? Do you have another weird dream for us or a funny experience you had recently? I do. I do have a dream that I've been meaning to tell for a bit, but I just constantly been forgetting, and it's a long one. It's like, I was going to give a paragraph, but when I wrote it down, I didn't separate it into paragraphs, so it'd be kind of tough to do that, wouldn't it? How have you evolved your editing style over the past year or years, and do you think right now is the best version of your editing style? I wouldn't say I'm at my best version of my editing, but I would say I'm at the most refined version, and what I mean by that is I feel like I understand more on how far I have to go to get a certain result, instead of like throwing everything at it and hoping I get the result that I want. But I would say that I wish I did or had time to do similar edits to how I used to do, especially like with a lot of the anime edits. Those are super fun to do, but it's also something where I don't want to do it too frequently and then it gets sort of boring. So I wouldn't say that this is like the best, because I think back then when I sort of wildly experimenting a bit more, I think it resulted in more things in videos, and now I just sort of like realize like, okay, I can do this in only this many steps, but that's still sort of a work in progress of itself, is like, how far do I want to go? It's a very weird thing to explain out loud, I'm realizing, but hopefully that answered your question in some way. 2 questions because you like the attention. Question 1. Oh shit, I forgot I was keeping track of the questions. Well, I guess we're back to 1. Do you believe you keep your life more private than other YouTubers? Because I feel like we don't get to much see of your outside life. I'll answer that right now. I don't have an outside life. Would you ever play story-based games like Wolf Among Us or Beyond Two Souls, even on your second channel, because I would love to watch it? Honestly, not a bad idea. I remember a lot of those Telltale games, and I feel like that might be fun to go back and actually play, because I think at that time I was editing for a YouTuber who played through them, so I sort of like went through and chopped them all up. At that time, I was sort of like, well, I kind of know everything that happens, but at this point, I don't think I do, so maybe I'll go back and play those. What's your family think about your style, such as your fashion and nail polish? Ask me because I come from a family that isn't accepting of my style, which I would say strongly resembles yours. My family doesn't really care, at least not vocally. They don't care. I don't think they really care, to be honest. I think they sort of just understand that it's just the freedom of expression. What made you choose the name Kryoz? Well, way back in the day, I used to play a little game called World of Warcraft. And in that game, I played a frost mage who is cold. Frost is cold, for those who actually don't know. And in some way, cryo is tied to cold. It's like a prefix, but I think it might mean like freezing cold or something like that. And I knew that, and I was like, hey, that's a kind of a cool name. And so I changed it to a K, and with the Z too, because I mean, this was, I almost said 40 years ago. I'm not even 40 years old. This was a while ago, probably 13, 14 years ago. But yeah, that's pretty much it. How do you like your eggs done? I'm actually very open. I'm down to have my eggs in many different types. I think there's multiple good ways to enjoy an egg. Normally, I'm gonna go with an over easy just because I kind of like that runny yolk. I mean, not even kind of, I just like that runny yolk. What is the biggest piece of advice for someone that wants to express themselves in the way that you do, but feels need a final push, i.e. nail polish, color, plants, the looks of a confident person, etc.? A lot of it's just doing it, like not waiting for approval in some ways, and just sort of doing what you want to do for the sole reason that you just want to do it and you feel like it expresses who you are more. You kind of just got to take that step regardless. If there's pushback, let them push you back. Not literally, but like, nice nail polish, loser. Say thanks and walk on with a smile. They're just gonna be like, okay, you just gotta do it. I don't know if that was a good answer. Does painting, drawing, and all your beautiful art stuff help you in any way? Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it definitely, I still think about stuff, but it's like it's almost like matched up with how I'm painting, I guess, sometimes in a way. Or I'm just like only thinking about what I want to do to the painting, like thinking of what color do I want here? How do I want to apply it? Blah, blah, blah. So many different things. But I would say it definitely helps me. What is something you want to do before you die? Have sex. Genuine question. If we eradicated an entire genetic pool, black, white, etc., do you think it would eventually return through mutation? Yeah, most likely, because isn't that sort of how humans got their skin color today anyways? We all came from the same place, and based on where we lived and the things we had to deal with to survive, it slowly changed our skin colors. Am I wrong? What is our mundane things you want to just connect to your brain and say yes, like that? Probably like anything business side related. Like, I just wish I could be like, do exactly how you're doing it. You've done this before. You don't have to Google every single thing, or even like writing out an envelope. Every single time I'm writing an envelope, I swear I have to Google how to write to address on an envelope. I'm like, okay, cool. So it's all of these. Dude, you've done this before. Just go with your gut. It's rarely wrong, because most of the time, if your gut's saying do it, you probably have experience doing it. Yeah, simple things. I mean, like simple but high stress things. And it's like, how is mailing high stress? Well, if I fuck it up, then the mail's going somewhere else. Banana or peach? Both. When I was younger, I used to chop up bananas and get those little peach cups, mix that bitch up, ate that shit. Delicious. What are your thoughts on furries? But for real, how do you manage anxiety if you have it? That is, some don't. I seem to be on a constant battlefield fighting off attacks and a complete meltdown. Furries are cool. They're whatever. I don't know. They might stink a little bit, but I think if anybody wore a suit for a lot of the time, they would probably stink. And how do I manage anxiety? Well, I kind of just move through it by... I don't know, because I do think I have anxiety, but I don't really know if I manage it. I know it sounds weird, and maybe like painting and like doing stuff like that helps manage it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just sort of now thinking here. I don't know if I manage it. I think I just sort of like live with it and get anxious at a lot of times. I think mine's more like as situations arise, I'm just like, fuck. But I think if you're just like super forgetful, you'll forget that you were anxious. And I think that's the secret. What is one thing you like to remind yourself about how to deal with the fact that we are a speck in an entire universe expanding faster than light itself to something we can't fathom how far the universe reaches, and how we are basically an atom compressed compared to the vast space? Well, I don't think it really matters because it doesn't change anything whether or not we were or weren't. All you can really think about is it's pretty cool because we're always traveling millions of miles an hour. So we're all speedaholics or something. I think what would be more insane is if we knew space had an edge and we were rushing towards it. You know, I think that then we'd be like, oh shit, that'd be a bit more panic inducing because like what happens when you get to the actual edge of space? Is there a giant bedrock wall? Is there a sign that says turn back, wrong way? How was the process of exploring new hobbies this year, paint, clothing, and how do you manage to add them to your life and keep up with them? Well, they're hobbies, so I just do them whenever I have the urge to or the free time to, or sometimes both at the same time. And exploring new hobbies this year, I mean, it was sort of the same. I just kept on I've been doing them both for a bit. I mean, drawing was a little bit longer than painting, but painting I started 2021. Actually, no, was it at the end of it? It might have been like midway through 2021. It's just sort of, I mean, just kind of bad still, time management. There's also a reason that I haven't uploaded as much ever since starting painting and sewing. So, whoopsies. What's the best piece of advice you've ever given or would give? I can't really think of, I mean, I've gotten like great advice in certain things, but probably not like really applicable to this question. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of like dumb things of like stupid advice. You know, I really don't know. If you have any good advice in just general for like life advice, put it down in the comments. What's your best advice that you can give to somebody? Because I feel like I ain't got shit for this one. I've always been a fan of your CS vids. Do you still enjoy the game itself or just play it mainly as a background game for videos? A little bit of both. I enjoy the game, but it's also a good game for background for videos most of the time. Granted, not too well anymore, just because, well, no one really plays it too much. And it's kind of died off as far as viewership. I genuinely enjoy Counter-Strike. I think it's still one of the best FPSs out there. It's just not the most popular because it's not as flashy and constantly updated as the other ones. Do you think you're good at art, or like most artists, you have I suck at art complex? Definitely I suck at art. Not even a complex, I just know I do. Are you aromantic? I don't remember what that meant, so I'm gonna have to Google this one again. Person who is aromantic does not experience romantic attraction to persons of any gender. I don't know if I would say I'm aromantic as much so as just no one's good enough for me. Or maybe even more so, I'm just not attracted to anyone right now, but I haven't been attracted to anyone for a while. Maybe I'm aromantic. Maybe I'm just lonely. Do you ever like to knit or crochet? No. I don't know why I said, like I had no, I haven't. I never really thought about it just because I don't need more hobbies to eat up my time that I run thin on, because I still like to play games. Playing games is still a hobby. Granted, it's not quite as easy of a hobby to do as some of the other ones. There's a lot more like mental pressure that sort of lingers around while I'm at my computer doing things, because it's like, you should be recording this, mister. If an art/fashion project doesn't turn out the way you like it, do you try and fix it or just drop the piece completely? And does this little screw up mess up your motivation in the want/need to make art? I think there's times, like I was trying to make a hat and I sort of got to a certain point with making the hat that it like almost fit, but it didn't quite fit the way I wanted it to, and I kept on trying to change things, and then eventually I was just like, screw this thing. And since then I haven't really sewed much, so maybe a little bit, but I don't know if that's directly tied to why I haven't sewed or if it's more so just because I haven't felt like sewing as much. And then as art, sometimes little mess ups can be like an opening to something you never even really imagined. Like I have an art piece I was working on, was trying to put like yellow text on it, but like through the tube to get sort of a chunky look. And I was like, this sucks. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll block this shape out, and drew like a black line around it. And I was like, well, that sucks too. And then I just kept on doing things. So I was like, well, maybe I'll make this like a sky island or something. And then, you know, I started doing that, and then I started to like it. So like all these different mess ups or things that I didn't like at the time sort of turned into me actually really liking this piece. It's this one right here. Because like these were the yellow, and then I said, yeah, smeared it. Have you considered getting piercings? And if so, have you thought about any in particular? I'd probably just get my ears pierced again, probably both of them. I had this ears pierced before, I don't know how long ago. I think maybe before I was even 20. Maybe not. No, probably actually. I think like in high school I had it, but probably if anything, just my ears. I don't think I would get much more than that. How do you overcome the fear of sticking through with drastic changes, not only in terms of the channel, but other things too? How do you not let things get to you? I think things do get to me. It's sort of just how you react to them. And because like, if there's a drastic change happening and it's relating to something you want to do, you sort of got to see it through if you want to keep on doing that thing. So it's sort of just like preservation. Is that the right word? Perseverance? I think it might have been preservation is keeping something from going bad. Preservation or perseverance is pushing on. So I think it's just a little bit of that, and sort of realizing if it is something you truly want to do, you know, you got to stick with it. But then, like, as far as letting it get to you, it might get to you. And, you know, you might have moments where you just need to pull the hell away from it. And that's when you sort of do it. I don't know. That's all I got. Everything will always be changing. Nothing is a constant. I've gotten a lot of questions asking if I'm ever going to do commissions or sell any art or start a gallery or multiple variety of things. And to answer all of those in one fairly swell go, yes, but probably not the gallery, at least for a little bit. I feel like before doing a gallery, I got to start liking my own pieces more. And don't get me wrong, there's pieces that I like. I just feel like I got to start liking them more personally and sort of getting my groove as to like when a piece is done. And then as far as the commission side, I'm like open to do commissions right now, but it's sort of got to just be from people I know, so they're not as like, man, where is it? And it can be a little bit more of like a relaxed person to person thing. While I think with like a viewer of mine, it's a little bit harder. I think they'll still be patient, but I also think if they're like not really a viewer and they actually just want an art piece, then they might be a little bit like, hey, where is it, bucko? So eventually, I mean, you gotta remember, I've only been painting for like a year and a half, so give me time, but I definitely want to try to start selling art as long as you guys can afford it. Also, some people bringing up me possibly making a clothing line. And while I do think a clothing line would be awesome, I think that's a whole different step. I at least got to get like constant merch or something going, and then like work on designs or something like that. I don't know if I go full on proper clothing design. While it would be cool, just seems like too much. Like I've only done one merch drop, like an official merch drop, but it would be cool to eventually have like a clothing line out or something like that. I think my main problem right now is I don't actively actually design clothes, but maybe I should get into that as like a side of the art graphic design type of thing, merge those together a little bit and actually design clothing. Also had a couple people bring up the fact that my channel is dying and I upload less, and they're curious why that is. Well, as far as why I upload less, and I think as far as why I upload less, and I think why I upload less also ties into itself why my channel is dying, which do I agree? I get how it can seem like it's dying, but I also think that I have suffocated it a little bit. So I think the main reason that I upload less is because I mentioned this slightly earlier. A lot of games just don't have bigger groups involved anymore. So I'm not invited to some of them just because they kind of already have this group that they've ran with and they keep running with. I'm sort of just the guy on the sidelines waving at them whenever they pass me by. I'm like, hey guys, how you doing? It sucks for me because I don't have as much content to upload, so I haven't uploaded as much. And in turn, I think it was a reason my channels fell off. Also because I think I uploaded solo content when I didn't necessarily need to, but I felt the pressure to just get a video up. Hopefully that answered most of your questions. I had some people that still don't know how I met BB No Money. I met BB No Money and Young Gravy around the same time. It was a fateful Twitch stream. Someone I'm pretty sure came in, linked me Young Gravy. They're like, hey, have you heard of this guy yet? And I was like, oh no, I haven't. And I forgot what song it was. And I still don't remember after a couple seconds of pondering. I went there, I liked the song, I followed him, and then Young Gravy messaged me. I want to say he said something along the lines of, yo, is this actually Kryoz? I just DM'd you on Twitter or something like that. And I don't know how it all exactly happened, but that's sort of, I think, a rough remembrance on Young Gravy. And then through Young Gravy, I saw he did songs with BB No Money and listened to BB No Money songs, and I liked his songs, and I sort of hit him up. And now he's pretty much been my outro for like, at least 3 years, maybe even longer, I want to say. Some people questioning my passion for the grind set, man. And just sort of was curious how I have changed over the years and if I still care about doing YouTube. I do still enjoy YouTube. I think the passion has changed. It's tough to say that like I'm passionate about it because I don't know if I'm like, I feel like passion is such a strong word, but I still enjoy doing it and I still want to do it. And I feel like there's much to still do on it. So I definitely want to keep on doing it. As far as how I've changed from back in the day compared to now, I still feel pretty much the same. And sort of how I view YouTube is similar, although now I sort of feel like I get more things about it, while I feel like years ago it was tough to explain why things happened. I don't know if that really makes much since. But I'm gonna pretend that I answered those questions really well. Which is your favorite type of art style and my favorite time period of art? Well, I think my favorite art style is probably some sort of like abstraction in some sort, just because I think it's sort of interesting trying to understand why they did it like that, why they use certain colors. Are they only trying to make a pretty picture? Are they trying to tell something? And just sort of wonder why they decided to do everything they did to it, why they decided to put certain colors in other places. I mean, probably for the most part, it's a lot just to aid the composition of it. And then favorite time period, even though I'm not like super versed in a lot of the artists around this time, but like whenever they were painting like the Sistine Chapel and shit, like that art style is crazy to me. And like that period of art is just sort of nuts because it was so long ago. I think in the 1400s, maybe even before. But like, it just seems crazy because I think about that time and it's like, most people were probably impoverished compared to how it is now. And so it's just like the amount of time and everything you needed to do in order to like get that stuff. Like you probably had to know a paint maker who was like probably such a niche job at the time. Like, I don't know. I think it just blows my mind because the level of work and detail versus how I imagined the quality of living was. But I also don't fully know, but I don't know what period that would necessarily be called, but like Jesus era shit. I might try a small lightning round real quick to break up the video because there might be a very long-winded one coming next about art inspirations and stuff like that and influences. So it could get lengthy. Do you realize that you're possibly the funniest individual? Yes. What makes you wake up in the morning? A fancy little thing I think recently invented in maybe the past 5 years or something. It's called a phone. And on the phone, it has alarms. Very neat. If you could rebrand your YouTube channel to a new name, would you? And what would you name? I just wouldn't, to be honest. I think Kryoz is a pretty unique name overall, so I don't really want to change it. Do you like lasagna? Of course I like lasagna. It's like asking me if I like pussy. Have you considered tax fraud? Every single year. Thoughts on femboys? Keep it up, you're doing great. Why are you so underrated? Because, I don't know. Which thumb is on top when you lace your fingers together? My left one. Yeah, my left one. How many paintings can I get for $4.78? A whole entire 0. What do you think about taxes? I consider fraudulating them every time. I don't know if I should say that. Will you ever bless us with another video of you just saying thanks again? Maybe. Maybe at 2 million. Only the real ones know about that. And maybe some fake ones. We got some people here curious about the process of making clothes and making art and blah blah. Do you listen to music while creating art? How'd you get into making clothes? Hey John, just curious, do you plan the art before you produce the brush? Do you often feel like you have to force yourself to make art, or does it come naturally? What inspires you to create? I do listen to music. Most of the time, it's not a specific type of music. Usually just whatever I feel like playing. Sometimes rap, sometimes dance, sometimes house, sometimes jazz, sometimes a stream or a YouTube video. And I do think it affects the result, but at least for me personally, not in a way major enough. Because usually I think the only way it can affect the result is if it like distracts what I'm thinking of when I go to paint. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about that whenever I go more into inspirations on the next batch of questions. But yes, I think it can affect the end result. And how did I get making clothes? Well, back when I was a young boy, my mom and I think both my grandmas did cross stitching and sewing stuff. So I was sort of like slightly surrounded by it a fair amount. And I guess as I got older and got more into fashion, I just thought it'd be an interesting thing to pick up for myself and kind of mess around with. And now here we are, where I am. Do I ever force myself to make art? I try not to because I don't think it leads to good art. There's definitely moments and on certain pieces where I've like tried to force myself to do something just because I felt like being creative, but I felt like being creative, but I didn't feel creative. I don't know if that makes sense. It might to some of you, but maybe not to others. But yeah, but I've tried not to force myself to do my hobbies as I don't think it normally leads to a progressive moment doing them. And do I plan my art? No. If you could be doing anything other than YouTube right now, what would you be doing? And what do you want to do if/when the YouTube machine runs dry? So I put these together just because I feel like they're sort of the same. So if I could be doing anything other than YouTube, I probably would still want to be doing YouTube just because it's like a pretty powerful tool when it comes to being able to do almost anything you want and still be able to make videos on it. So I would still want to be doing that. If I couldn't because it ran dry or something like that, I would ideally want to make clothes and paint some more. Hopefully this doesn't happen. Hopefully it doesn't like just fully run dry, just because I know a lot of people I know and like friends with all sort of do this thing. And then I guess I sort of assume that if YouTube runs dry, other things might be running dry eventually. And it would be sort of interesting. It'd almost be like the fall of content creators, which would be, I guess, sort of interesting to think about, and would probably lead to a lot bigger, I guess, ripples that I would not expect. And speaking of YouTube future, I had quite a few people also ask me about that. How do you feel about YouTube being more strict on profanity and having content creators toe a thinner line to stay monetized? And do I think YouTube will ever get their BS better? And is there no hope, or you just gotta live life? And compared to a couple years ago, what parts of YouTube have changed for the better or for the worse? I think the worst, as we all know, is the monetization policies. I think they've gotten very choking, constricting. They just keep on making it harder and harder to stay monetized. And now apparently they have a thing where if you get demonetized, they'll like retroactively take money back from the video. I'm assuming before they pay you for it, otherwise that'd be crazy. As far as YouTube getting more strict on their profanity, I think it sucks, but it's also, I mean, it's sort of something there so they can still make money off of advertisements, and in turn we can make money. It does feel like it's a little bit bending over and just letting the advertisers do whatever they want and have all their demands met just for the sake of it. But I don't know the inner workings of it all. Compared to 2017 and 2018, it is like way more strict. I feel like in 2018, you could start a video off with just saying fuck and nothing would really change. And now it's like, it's almost better to just not have a single one in the video throughout the whole time. But do I ever think they're gonna get it together? I don't know. What was my job before YouTube? Well, let me tell you. I guess I kind of did earlier, but landscaping and graphic design was pretty much the two that I had before YouTube. I never had like a proper full-on go to work, leave work job. That's a little bit interesting. It's definitely an odd experience to be my age and never like actually work at like a grocery store or in an office or whatever it may be. And it sort of feels weird because I feel like I'm also one of the earlier sort of like waves of the type of people that will probably be like this. I think as time goes on and with like the internet being more and more monetizable, I think there's gonna be a lot of other people that never actually have like a real job or like a job where you actually have to go in somewhere. But granted, I also feel like YouTube is probably more work than any other real job. When I say real job, just know the reals in quotes. Do I ever wish I've gone into a different career path? No, because at the time I had no idea what I wanted to do, because it was sort of the moment where I was deciding if I wanted to go to college, what was I going to go to college for? And the only thing I could think of was graphic design. But by the time I graduated high school, I sort of wasn't quite all down for graphic design. I don't know. I didn't know if I wanted to like actually pursue that more. And I obviously decided not to. I never went to college. So I don't really wish I ever went into a different career, but that's also just because I don't even know what other careers I would have gone in. What started your interest in art, whether it be painting, sewing? What drew me to creation? Not just videos, but clothing and painting as well. I think I've just always been a fan of creating stuff. I've always liked making things. Like I said, graphic design. I think when I was younger, I doodled quite a bit and like did visually pleasing things with sort of like text and other things. When I found YouTube, it was like so many different things I had to create each time just for one video. And there's so many different like things I like could create for other people and do. It just felt like a pot of different type of creations I could do. And then as I got older and grew up and YouTube progressed and life got more advanced, or I guess whatever I'm saying right now, I started doing painting and sewing because they were also sort of tied to, well, maybe not sewing as much. Sewing was more like to the past, but I was into fashion. So like I said, sewing and fashion, pretty good combo. And then I got into painting because I did so many thumbnails and mock-ups for my thumbnail artists that I eventually was like, oh, I should start drawing a little bit. Maybe I'll see how I like drawing. And then after drawing, I was like, man, I kind of want to try painting in real life. I don't know, this painting on digital stuff is kind of cool, but what if I do it in real life? And then there it is. And then this is from your dad, so you better answer. How'd you know to pursue YouTube over IRL jobs, or did you do a mix of the two? Well, I would think my dad would know that answer since he was around, but I didn't really do any IRL jobs besides, like I said, the landscaping, but that was like with my mom. So it wasn't like under an actual company. I sort of just went and did it in the morning, like 3 out of the 5 days. We didn't do weekends. I mean, I guess sometimes we did, but not usually. So I never really did any like contracted real life jobs. I just sort of got lucky, I guess, with doing whatever I wanted, and it eventually led to YouTube. How do you think you've changed personality-wise through the years doing YouTube, and how do you think YouTube, friends, work, etc., has impacted that? I think I've gotten more mature in quite a few different ways, but I also think I've gotten more comfortable in other ways as well. So I think it's been like an overall general improvement. Granted, I also think that would have came regardless of YouTube, or like probably in any career path, and just sort of like something based with age. But sort of when you do YouTube for so far a good portion of my life, I think just under half of my life, pretty much, you know, you capture a lot of different times in your life that you were a different person, whether it be better or worse in different ways. So I do think it's changed me, like I said, in those ways, but I also think it's made me more apt in just doing a lot of different things. So yeah, I think I answered that. And also, from when you started YouTube to where you are now, what would you say is your biggest accomplishment and favorite experience from it? And then just in general, what achievements have I achieved that have made myself proud? Well, I think it's pretty cool to say that even though I started art, like actual painting and drawing 2.5 years ago, we'll say, I've been able to sell some art pieces. And granted, I know they're to friends, but I still think they wouldn't buy them if they weren't good, or if they didn't at least like them. So I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if I would say that's my biggest accomplishment, but it's definitely one that I think is like pretty cool. I would say I'm proud of it. It's tough to say, I guess, that I'm proud of it, because, you know, I think there's so much growth to happen there still that it's like, I guess I don't want to be proud of myself too early, which sounds a little bit ridiculous. And then as far as like accomplishment on YouTube itself, I think just growing the channel like I have, and the fact that I'm still around, still doing YouTube, since throughout my time, there have been so many YouTubers that I've known and worked for, kind of like doing thumbnails or whatever it may be for, that aren't as big or really even doing this anymore. And it's kind of cool that I'm like still here. I got quite a few questions about what my plans are and what I'm gonna do kind of in my life. These could be under resolutions, and I guess they sort of are, so I'm just answering them all together. As far as future plans, a little bit / resolutions for maybe not so channel related, I definitely want to try to start selling art. I want to get a store up to both sell like the one-of-one canvases that I do, but it would also be great if I could get prints going and like get high quality prints and like scans of some of my art pieces, so you guys can have posters or something like that. And I want to do more merch, or like people were saying earlier, a clothing line of some sorts would be awesome to do. I think getting more into those both would be very fun, and I think a whole different side of life that I guess I never really prepared for. It's way different than YouTube, I think, but I think there's also more parallels that I could draw probably when I get into it more. But that's something I've definitely been wanting to do and want to try to do more, but also kind of am in the spot where I have no idea how to even start doing that. It feels like a lot, but I also think it'll be beneficial enough to where I don't really care that it's a lot, because it's something that's going to be fun, where I don't have to necessarily rely on YouTube so much. And it'll probably give me a better relationship with YouTube in itself. And hopefully I answered most of y'all's questions that I put up. Pretty much, I guess, to be more general, is just getting better at art, selling more of my art, giving more options to buy my art. And same thing with making clothes, is I would also love to do like small handmade cut and sew batches of like 5 to 10 pieces, maybe even less depending on what they are, single pieces, and just sort of do all that. And then it sort of as channel plans or expansion of what I'm going to be doing this year, but more related to channel. Did that make sense? I don't know. I think for this channel, I want to get like some growth and consistency back in sort of what I'm posting. Like I want to try to post videos that I know will reach a certain standard. And I want to try to get some of that back, and then slowly work on what I should put on what channel, and have my channels be slightly more defined, but more interconnected also in a way. So it's not so much I have 2 channels, but just like 2 places you can find different types of Kryoz videos, and sort of work on that. Sort of being stagnant over the past like 2 years has definitely been a little bit tough mentally to sort of cope with. I think it's sort of also a great learning point to adapt and try different things. And I think that's sort of what I want to try this year, is just different types of videos, probably mostly on more Kryoz, and just learning things and trying out things, and have that channel also just have the ability to stand on its own, you know, and have it have its own unique flair to it, and this one have its own unique flair to it, and just have them both grow, essentially. Hopefully that answered the question. I think that's the best way I can answer it. I've gotten a whole bunch of questions about like painting inspirations and stuff, and like my influences in it, ranging from who am I inspired by, what am I inspired by, where do I get my inspiration, who are my influences, what am I influenced by, where do you get your art stuff? Well, first of all, I'll say I get most of my art supplies, like most of the brushes I use are from, I think it's a brand called Royal and Langnickel. But as far as art supplies, it's just sort of getting supplies that you think works for you and trying to make them decent. Easily Google searches will tell you like what the top quality art supplies are, and then if those are too expensive, which I don't even buy those, not because they're too expensive necessarily, but because they cost too much. That's the same thing. But there's also plenty of like good enough paints out there. And then as far as the inspiration side, I get inspired by a wide variety of things, whether it just be seeing specific colors, other artists and their paintings, how something is organized or how it's deorganized or cluttered or something like that, color combinations, or just, like I said, how it's like composed, seeing some other art. You sort of wonder what made them do it and think about it. And then you're just like, maybe I'll try something like that. Maybe I'll try it in a similar style. Or you see how they painted it and you're like, maybe I'll try painting like that, see how I can get it. Maybe it'll be good for these types of situations. Like if you see something and you're like, damn, I want to try something like that, try something like that. How do you get over your creative blocks? Is there a process, or do you just take a step back and give it some time? Definitely taking a step back and giving it some time helps. And I also think having not only other hobbies, but something else you can just like go do, even if it's just like watching TV for a little bit, whatever it can be to like sort of remove your brain from like thinking about the thing that you feel blocked off from. And watching something inspiring can give you all those things I was just talking about, where you can see something and you're just like, oh, what if I try to do something like that, or blah, 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 you know, whatever it may be. The main part of like whenever I'm in a block is you just sort of step back, give it some time, and try not to force yourself. If you experience burnout at all, what's been your personal remedy for it? So sort of like I just said, is sort of stepping back and taking some time away and trying not to force yourself to do it. Doing things where it's not your main point of focus or your main point of thought, and you know, you're thinking of other things. Obviously it can be easier said than done, but I think that's sort of an important step in burnout. And also realizing and questioning yourself, like, is this something you want to keep doing, or maybe you're burnt out on it because of another reason? And I think depending on your answer there, you might have to change up a little bit of what you're doing in order to try to get over that burnout, I guess. What's your favorite thing to make art with? Any art advice on how to not be perfectionist? As far as making art with, I just use acrylic paints, sometimes some pencils, and then brushes, obviously, and then palette knives as well sometimes. And then how to not be perfectionist, I think one decent way is sort of like taking out some of your control that you have over it, which I know can be a little bit harder to do sometimes, because sometimes, like, say you throw a whole bunch of paint at it and you're just like, okay, that's a splatter. But then sometimes you want to go for another one because it doesn't quite look right. Hold back on doing that other little splatter, because then you might go too far and then you might like, no, that wasn't quite how I was imagining that splatter. And then you keep on trying to splatter. Then all of a sudden it's too much splatter. Then you want to wipe it all off. I think just like taking away some of the control is kind of like one step. Holding your paintbrush back or in like a weird way so you can't, you know, you don't have so much precise control over it. Or even pencil, you can do it with pencils as well. Any advice for artists who don't have a lot of confidence in their art style? I would almost say sort of the same thing as the last, but also try experimenting with other art styles, like take somebody else's art style and draw on theirs or try to mimic theirs. But I also think not having the confidence is just because you haven't honed your art style yet, and you just got to keep on working at it, keep on finding the things you like about it, stop doing the things you don't like about it, kind of slowly work through it until you land at a spot that you are more confident in it with. It's going to take time and it's going to take a lot of effort, but I bet you it'll be worth it once you get there. What's the fastest way to improve on art? Keep at it, keep doing it. Obviously, if you get tired of doing it, maybe stop for a little bit, like I talked about with the burnout or the creative block, and then just try to do it as much as you can. Try different things. Don't just keep on doing one thing. If like you get tired of only one thing, but you still want to create something, try doing it a different way. Try doing something completely different. If you always paint humans, try painting a cow. How do you stay creative all the time when it comes to making art or perhaps building/decorating something? I don't think most people stay creative all the time. It's like, at least in my experience, it's very much a up and then a downhill, and then an uphill, and then a downhill, and then an uphill. And it's like a lot of ups and downs of constantly sort of changing what you want to be doing. You know, sometimes in those down periods, you're more so thinking about what to do next, and then when you're actually doing it, you're just doing it, I guess. But it's definitely not being a creative all the time, at least not for me. It's a very sporadic thing. How did you find your art style? I remember you streamed one of the first things you're doing. It's happened. I can definitely tell you've grown into your own style. Sort of like I mentioned earlier, I just kept on trying a variety of different things. I kept on sort of mimicking other artists' art style, and I kept on just making different shit until I liked certain parts of it. And then for those certain parts of it, I kept on trying to replicate that in other ones I did, just because I like doing it certain ways. And, you know, it's like, it would be hard for me to dissect it and say what those specific things are. But I think, yeah, just sort of constantly doing something until you make something you like, and finding those small things you like doing in an art piece and constantly doing them throughout. If you could become a famous artist or the top YouTuber, which one would you rather be? I would pick both. I'd be the top YouTuber and a famous artist, because why not? Plus, if I was a top YouTuber, I'd probably be a pretty famous artist anyways, assuming my art's good. Honestly, probably the top YouTuber, just because of sort of the reason I just said. If I'm a top YouTuber, it doesn't mean I can't be an artist, I would say so. But then if I'm a top YouTuber, I also have one of the best marketing probably websites to use at my disposal, and I'm on the top of it. You know what I mean? Would you rather play single player games, or would you rather play multiplayer ones with friends? Why not both of them? I don't think I have to choose really on that one. Obviously, I would pick multiplayer with friends just because it's more active, it's more fun, and I mean, yeah, just yeah. Fashion versus painting, which is a better art outlet for you? I think an actual art outlet would probably be painting, but I also think they're both very unique to themselves. I guess they're still sort of the same depending on how much you want to break it down. I think as far as an actual outlet, painting's a sort of a lot easier to just like hop on and do a little bit of it, while sewing takes a lot of prep work, takes a lot of like while you're actually doing it. And it just takes a bit. Do you prefer creating clothes or paintings? Kind of, once again, paintings a little bit. I still like creating clothes. It just, like I said, it just takes a little bit longer to create clothes usually. Painting is a lot more to like, it's sort of nice because it's a lot more impulsive. Like I can be like, oh, I want to do this, and I can do it, and I can be done. While with painting, it's like, ooh, I want to put all these on the leg. Okay, now I have to go cut out all those shapes. I have to find the right thread. I have to thread my machine, or I have to hand sew them all on. I have to be sure that they're ironed out so they stick better. It's just like, it's a lot more going into it. If I had to pick one, I wouldn't. I would still pick both because I'm a cheater. We're on the tail end of this thing. Like the video if you're still here and you haven't done it yet, and subscribe too. I appreciate it. And you know what? Might as well go subscribe to my second channel as well, because why the hell not? I'll wait. You done? What fashion product are you most proud of making? Probably the pants I made for BB No Money, just because it was my first commission and he wore them way more than I ever expected him to, which I thought was super cool. I would have to pick that one just because but to be fair, that's kind of the only one I've made for somebody else. So I think there's a different level of like pretty awesome attached to it. You know what? Let's just do a general top 3. There's a flower shirt that I think was one of the first things that I sewed in no particular order. I'll just go ahead and say it just so it's there. The pants for BB No Money. And then my third would probably actually be another pair of pants that I did, and also might be one of the first things I've sewed, or was one of the first things, probably not the first thing, was my favorite material to work with. I don't know if you're talking about painting or clothing. So for clothing, cloth or any sort of textile fabric. And for painting, kind of the same, because canvases or fabric. But if you're talking about paint itself, I usually use acrylic, but I also use pencils and sort of watered down paint as well. What was your favorite skill you learned for 2022? I don't know if I learned any skills in 2022. I'll be honest. Nothing I can think of. I think I just sort of honed the skills that I already had. I kind of just practiced painting more, practiced sewing more, and I think got better at editing as well during that time. So I guess those. Favorite anime character of all time? I'll probably have to choose Mob from Mob Psycho, or maybe Zoro from One Piece. And then we'll do a top 3 on this one too. And And I think my third one would be Moomin Rider from One Punch Man. Not really, I just couldn't think of a third one. Favorite flavor of ice cream? I'm kind of a simple bitch, but I like me some vanilla, especially with like a brownie or a warm cookie. Like, I just feel like it's so hard to beat vanilla in that case. And before we get all like, oh, which type of vanilla? Most of them. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna sit here pick and choose. Vanilla is just good. What's your favorite color? Probably like a blue or an orange or varying shades of those. Which video of yours was the funniest to make / edit? That's tough to pick one out of like the almost 3,000 videos I've made. But I will say game-wise, I think some of the funnest games that I've edited, probably like the shell shocks and the stick fights. I think those videos are always super fun to edit. I also think the Gardic phones and like the Scriblio ones are also pretty fun. Which art piece took the longest to make, and which of all of them are you most proudest of? Longest to make might be the one that I sold Smitty, because it was like a face one that he has. I mean, there's also a whole bunch that I'm still working on. I should put them more in frame, but that also seems like a lot of work, so I probably won't do that. I know a whole bunch of people like that one, but I'm very iffy on certain parts of it. And I mean, I still like it, but it's not like my favorite. Ooh, also one I sold to Tyler took quite a bit of time though too. I forgot about that one. So I don't know if I have it necessarily to show off, but there's been a couple. But I mean, like I said, I also think with time, there's going to be other ones that have taken me even longer. As far as the one I'm proudest of, I mean, this might be a little bit corny, but I guess all the ones that I've sold because they were good enough that people wanted them. Who's your favorite friend that you play games with, Kryoz? I mean, I'm not one to pick favorites, but probably Smitty, just because, let's be honest, we all know why. Not like that, you sick fanfic freaks. What's your favorite ring? Why? Is there a ring you wish you had but it's unobtainable? No, I don't really have a ring that's unobtainable. I would say my favorite ring though is probably this one. It won't focus most likely, but it's just a silver ring with a bunch of rubies in it. And because ruby's my birthstone, yeah. And I have another ring that I like a lot, but it's upstairs because it doesn't quite fit me right. Your favorite hairstyle you've had thus far? Probably the mullet, honestly, just because it's so low maintenance. Like, I don't really do anything to my hair, and I feel like the mullet welcomes that. I sort of just wake up. Sometimes I brush it. Usually I brush it, I guess, waking up. Brush it out of the shower, but I don't really do anything special. I mean, and it feels like it doesn't really need it. Maintenance is pretty easy. So probably this one. What are your favorite videos to watch, make, edit? We always have our opinions, but seeing you do stuff you love recently has been a breath of fresh air. MO, keep it up. I mean, like I said, my favorite videos to make and edit are probably like the shell shock and the stick fights and games sort of in that style. Gardic, blah, 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 drawing games. They're all sort of fun, and it's like, they're just fun to edit. It's tough to explain unless you edit them, but I just enjoy editing them because there's so many like small little things you can sort of do to make it a better video, I guess. Who are your favorite music artists? This one's a little bit tough for me just because a lot of the music I listen to aren't really ever from like one artist, but as far my favorite genre is probably like jungle or D&B or house type of vibes. And it's tough to really pick like a favorite artist because like I said, I'm not much of someone who constantly listens to artists. As far as my favorite music artist, regardless that of his music, not saying his music's bad, BB No Money, because he's cool. What are some of your favorite clothes that you've sewn? These three, I already talked about a little bit, so I don't need to go more in depth, but it's these three. Aren't they wonderful? What's your favorite place that you've lived so far, or where would you like to live? I mean, there's a lot of places I would like to live, I guess, just to sort of experience it, like overseas in certain places I think would be cool, whether it be Italy, maybe New Zealand or Australia, even Europe, just to kind of see like where America actually came from and how big of an improvement it really is here. But favorite place I've lived so far would probably be California or Washington. What was nice about California is it felt like there was always something going on, something we could go do, a group of other creators getting together, doing something. And it always felt like there was something to do. And then Washington, I liked just because whenever it wasn't rainy and gloomy pile of shit, man, what a pretty state that was. What's your favorite game to play that you don't upload to YouTube? Probably World of Warcraft right now. If you just said what game do you play that you don't upload to YouTube, I'd also say League, but I hate League. What is your favorite game to make solo gameplay / commentary videos on? Probably Minecraft and Grounded, just because they're very sandboxy, especially since Grounded literally has a sandbox in it that you can go into. But it sort of feels like it's content that can last a long time. But I don't always have to necessarily progress the story part of it. And I think I sort of like that. And it just makes it really easy for doing commentaries over. And I can't believe it, but I think that was the final question, which I'm a little bit shocked about, but I welcome it with open arms. There it is. My Q&A. I don't know how many questions that was, since very quickly that I stopped keeping track of the questions. I started off saying question 1, and then I think I remembered it briefly on question 3 or 4, maybe even a little bit on question 5, but then I just completely forgot about it for the rest of the time. Whoopsies, but also, I don't think any of us care. But if you have your own question that you kind of wish was answered and is actually a good question, I'll probably be perusing the comments for this video. But I guess I also mentioned in the first time recording this that if they sucked, I would do another one. So maybe I won't peruse the comments and answer them. I don't know, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned something about me. And I hope I answered your questions if you asked a question. And if I did answer your question, like I actually picked it, whatever. Thanks for watching. Peace. See the money, grab that money, cut it, shit, case closed. Zeros with the commas in the bank.